Today we're going to break down all 6 weapons that you can find on the destination Kepler with the Edge of Fate, every PvP and every PvE god roll, so that way you can be informed while you're farming, and there really are some decent combinations on some of these weapons that I'm excited to look at. So let's get into it. Now, one thing worth mentioning is that if you come up to this center area with the main conflicts thing, there's attunement available. So attunement increases your drop chance for a specific item, specific weapon. You can do that for both armor and weapons in this case. So if you really want the auto rifle, you can attune to that. If you really want the pulse rifle, you can attune to that, and you'll have much better odds of landing more rolls. Does it guarantee you get what you want? No, but it is helpful, and it reduces the RNG that you have to rely on at least a little bit. So that said, let's get into the actual rolls. First up is Giver's Blessing, which is a rapid-fire kinetic auto rifle. I really like rapid-fire autos for PvP especially. Rufus's Fury is one of my favorites. The Root of Nightmare's raid auto rifle. That was really good for a long time, but I'm seeing some pretty good options here on Giver's Blessing as well. So for the traits, we have Feeding Frenzy, Shoot to Loot, Demolitionist, Rewind Rounds, a new trait, Impromptu Ammunition, as well as Transcendent Moment, and then Moving Target. For the second column, we've got Multi-Kill Clip, High Ground, Adrenaline Junkie, Zen Moment, One for All, Kinetic Tremors, and Adagio. For PvE, I really like the look of Rewind and Kinetic Tremors. That is just such a synergistic combo. The whole idea is that you're laying on the trigger, firing on a single target. It's going to be refilling your mag, and also proccing Kinetic Tremors and dealing some extra damage for you. To be honest with you, I'm just kind of a huge sucker for Kinetic Tremors, and Rewind and Kinetic together is a really solid combo. In the end, I would say that's probably the god roll for PvE, but I do like the idea of Impromptu Ammunition. That's going to be granting increased ammo meter progress from all sources for a short time after final blows. So ammo generation is a little bit different now. It's kind of weird, but now with perks like Impromptu Ammunition, you're going to at least be able to influence how much ammo you're generating at least a little bit more. Of course, you have options like Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie. You're going to be dealing more damage as you get kills. Grenades kickstart that damage, and you get more grenade energy by getting kills. I just don't really like that combination for some reason. There's also Transcendent Moment, which is new, but really, as a kinetic weapon, even with all those benefits, I don't really see that being all that helpful in PvE. Really, you want damage or utility options, not just stat boosts in PvE. There is Shoot to Loot. Combined with Kinetic Tremors, I do kind of like the look of that because the Kinetic Tremors can pick up the ammo. So if you want a PvE god roll and you get something like a tier 5 and you got 3 traits in each column, you could potentially get something like Rewind and One for All, or Kinetic Tremors and Shoot to Loot. If you get any combination of that, that would be pretty awesome. Now, what about for PvP? Pretty straightforward here. I'm only seeing one option in the first column that's actually going to be helpful, maybe 2. Transcendent Moment, not 100% sure how that's going to work, and I don't have a roll with it yet either. I apologize for the random gameplay, but I just don't have all these weapons. But Transcendent Moment gives you stability and handling for light element final blows, and for dark elements, you get range and aim assist. I'm not exactly sure if kinetics apply both or if you have to use a different weapon to apply one. I guess we'll find out. But for PvP, I'm not really sure how influential those stat buffs are, so you guys will have to let me know on that a little bit. For a reliable option, I would choose Moving Target. That's just going to give you faster ADS speed, and now that we're kind of locked into a 30 mobility stat and then 40 for hunters, we can't really influence mobility for PvP, and that makes something like Moving Target a little bit more important. It also gives you that passive 10 aim assist, and combined with Multi-Kill Clip for a little extra damage, maybe the Zen Moment for the increased stability. I kind of like the look of that. There's also Adagio dealing more damage, but firing a little bit slower. It's going to make it more manageable. You're going to have a little bit more range. So I don't know. Maybe Adagio is the play there. I'm not going to say there's really any one god roll here because some of that's preferential and none of them really stand out against the others. Now, before we move on to weapon number 2, I did want to talk about the origin trait a little bit. You've got Exhaustive Research. Aiming down sights at a target for a short time loads a homing micro rocket. Now, this micro rocket, as you can see here, does load after a short time after ADSing on a target, and it deals a decent amount of damage considering it's just an origin trait. It's completely free damage. Is it totally mind-blowing or game-breaking? Not really, but it does come back often enough. As you can see the cooldown here in the target range. I am so happy this exists. It's so helpful just for testing something under controlled conditions. Bottom line is, Exhaustive Research on the micro rocket is a decent addition to these weapons, and while it's not the craziest origin trait, it does help out a little bit. For weapon number 2, we have Last Thursday, a legendary kinetic pulse rifle. It's an adaptive, so 390, kind of middle ground. It's not real slow firing, it's not a high impact, but it's also not a rapid fire. It's reasonably competitive in PvP. It's very comfortable and easy to use, but it's not the most competitive archetype, so we'll keep that in mind as we examine these traits. First, the traits go, we've got Built to Blast, a new trait that grants aim assist, stability, and flinch resistance when you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or Void Overshield. Really anything that boosts your survivability is going to be granting that. And you've got got Rapid Hit. You also have Transcendent Moment here. You have Strategist, Demolitionist, Subsistence, and Moving Target. And then for the second column, you've got Binary Orbit, Dragonfly, Frenzy, Elementing, Headseeker, Hatchling, and Slice. Binary Orbit is also an interesting weapon trait. Elemental Final Blows, opposite of this weapon's type, increases damage for a short duration. So Darkness Final Blows boost Arc, Solar, and Void weapons, and vice versa. So if you're using this Strand Pulse Rifle and you have a special shotgun that's, say, Arc or Solar or Void, getting a kill with that is going to increase the weapon damage on your Pulse Rifle. So it's almost like Harmony, but under more specific circumstance. Kind of weird, and I don't know how much damage specifically. So again, expansion just came out. We're gonna have to find out how these weapon traits are as time goes on. As far as PvP is concerned, if you somehow have a way to build into Woven Mail all the time, or maybe Frost Armor, Built to Blast, increasing aim assist, stability, and flinch resistance sounds pretty great, especially Void Overshield. That's pretty easy to get for Titans out there. There's not a lot of times you get that combination of stat boosts, and I think for PvP that would be really nice. You also have Rapid Hit, of course, that's a classic. Strategist might be kind of nice depending on the build that you're running. And then there's also Moving Target for just, the standard typical aim assist boost in the ADS speed. For the second column, again, you have Binary Orbit. Depending on the damage buff, that might be worth using. There's also a Headseeker and Slice. I'm a big fan of Slice. You guys might know about the R-Tangle build. It's really good. Slice is a really easy way to take advantage of that. Generate tangles in Crucible, and then use stuff like Whirling Maelstrom. Definitely worth considering there. I like the idea of Strategist and Slice together personally, because Strategist is giving you class ability energy back, allowing you to use Slice more often. I'm not going to say that's the PvP god roll particularly, because I really like stuff that gives you some upfront benefits, or at least mid-duel benefits. So something like Rapid Hit and Slice would be pretty great, debuffing your enemy's damage while also increasing your stability and the ease with which you can land headshots. I like that a lot. There's also Rapid Hit and Headseeker. That's just gonna make it very easy to land shots repeatedly. Now that said, I'm probably not gonna roll with Headseeker since adaptives have pretty good forgiveness as it is, so maybe something like a damage buff would be great. Rapid Hit, and then maybe Binary Orbit for the damage boost, or maybe a real utility pick like Slice. So in the end, I would say the god roll is probably going to be Rapid Hit and Slice. I do like Slice because of the strand interactions, but also because it decreases the forgiveness that your enemy has. It makes it harder for them to win the duel. So it might not be the most face value effective option, but if you're gonna bring an adaptive frame pulse rifle into the Crucible, you kind of need some extra forgiveness going for you in duels, because it's just not the most competitive archetype. So Slice might give you that edge. As for PvE, anything that maxes out strand synergy is great, so I actually like the idea of Strategist and Hatchling, or Strategist and Slice. That's just going to be boosting your abilities and maxing out strand synergy and all that good stuff. There's not a lot of other options that I see here as being really interesting or compelling. Subsistence is certainly a thing. You could combine that with Dragonfly, or maybe Frenzy, or Elementing for the extra damage. I don't know. There are options, but nothing here that really blows me away. So if you want to combine it with like Rapid Hit for the fast reloads, and then Binary Orbit for the extra damage, you definitely could do that. Or if you want to lean into full strand synergy, well then just go with something like Built to Blast for the increased stats with Woven Mail, and then something like Hatchling. I'm not too crazy about adaptive pulse rifles in PvE, but if there's something you really like, go for it. For weapon number 3, we've got Agape, a heavy burst solar hand cannon. So it's the 2-shot burst archetype. It is kind of a weird archetype. I feel like it's really not meta in PvP or PvE. I don't really know that it has a home, but this one does have some interesting traits that I think could be pretty effective in either mode. So if you manage to get like a tier 5 god roll with 6 traits, maybe you can use it in both. For the first column, we've got Rewind Rounds, Snapshot, Pugilist, Heal Clip, Outlaw, Encore, and Moving Target. For the second column, you got Master of Arms, Vorpal Weapon, Firefly, Precision Instrument, Fragile Focus, Incandescent, and a new trait, Burning Ambition. Dealing sustained damage scorches a target, and dealing damage to a scorched target inflicts more scorch. That definitely feels like more of a PvE trait right there, but we'll get to that a little bit later. For PvP, I like the idea of Snapshot in the first column. These things are a little bit sluggish. At a base level, this gun's got 29 handling, so needless to say, Agape is a little bit slow on the handling. Something like Snapshot is going to alleviate that a lot. There's also Moving Target in the first column. That's fine. We've talked about that on both of the previous weapons. There's also Encore. I feel feel like Encore gets a little bit overlooked, but if you really want to just become a stat gremlin, just use Encore. You get so many stats boosted by just getting a single kill. You get stability, range, and accuracy. Those are probably the 3 most important stats to help you land crits and win duels in the Crucible, and Encore does all of that for you. It's really a great trait, and if you can get on a roll with a couple kills, it increases the stats on your weapon so much. It just feels fantastic. Now, I'm not going to say it's like meta or anything, but Encore is definitely worth considering. In the second column, you could pair that with Master of Arms. I believe even at 15% increased damage, that's going to increase the forgiveness a good bit. There's also Precision Instrument, and since you fire 2 shots at a time, I'm really curious to see how this one stacks up. If anyone knows the forgiveness values on Precision Instrument on a heavy burst, let me know in the comments. It's also Fragile Focus. I do kind of like the idea of leading off with that increased range, and if you combine that with something like Encore, you'd have increased range at the start of a duel, and once you get that kill, you'd have a whole bunch of stats to back it up. That's kind of an interesting idea there. Overall, for a PvP god roll, I'm probably going to say Snapshot and Fragile Focus. That's going to be just combining the best of both worlds with snappy handling, increased range to start the duel, just boosting stats and helping you lock down those kills. I think you could also make a case for even something like Heal Clip and Master of Arms, a little bit of healing after a kill, got the extra damage with the increased forgiveness. I don't know. It's fun to try different things. You know, maybe that's an option for you. Now for PvE, there's a lot that I really like here. There's Rewind rounds in the first column, of course. That's a favorite of mine. It just expands the magazine by so much if you just land your shots. Combined with Firefly. Firefly is always a ton of fun, but personally, I'm just honing right in on Burning Ambition. I think Burning Ambition is going to be a great trait. You're going to be dealing Scorch all the time, it sounds like, and if you combine that with something like Heal Clip, that's just a lot of solar synergy working together. So Heal Clip, Burning Ambition, that seems like a pretty clear-cut god roll to me. Of course, if you want to stick with something tried and true, there is Incandescent as well. So maybe something like Heal Clip and Incandescent would be a little bit more your interest. For our fourth weapon, we have Ulterior Observation, an aggressive frame stasis machine gun. To be quite honest with you, I'm not crazy about machine guns, so I'm just going to blow through this one quick. For PvP, I'm going to say Moving Target and Adagio is going to be your god roll. That balances nicely some performance boosts alongside extra damage, and since you're firing slower and dealing more damage, it's a little bit more ammo efficient, so maybe you can squeeze 1 or 2 more kills out of this thing. Maybe you could try and use Built to Blast. Not crazy about aggressive frames, they're just kind of hard to control, and maybe with the extra aim assist, stability, and flinch resist, you'd have an easier time landing shots. But really, just to be quite honest with you guys, there are better machine guns you should be using in the Crucible if you want a machine gun in the Crucible, so I won't even worry about this one. For PvP, you do have options like a Headstone and Rhyme Stealer. That's kind of fun. You're going to be creating stasis crystals and granting yourself some damage resistance. You also have Built to Blast. You're going to be getting some stat buffs, and Frost Armor is really easy to get this season, and Rhyme Stealer is also going to be giving you Frost Armor. So if you want to lean into Frost Armor as much as you can, get some stat increases, and get that damage resist, that is certainly an option for you. There is also Subsistence and Killing Tally. That is a pretty great option if you just want to go with pure ad clear and maintain that damage buff from Killing Tally. I'm not super crazy about machine guns, and we got a really good machine gun last season in Corrective Measure, so if you're looking for a great machine gun, just go farm that from Vault of Glass. This weapon looks okay, but definitely nothing that's really blowing me away here. For weapon number 5, we've got a high impact frame arc scout rifle with sublimation. In the first column, we've got Rapid Hit, Shoot to Loot, Envious Arsenal, Demolitionist, Eddy Current, Impromptu Ammunition, and Moving Target. For the second column, we've got No Distractions, Explosive Payload, Precision Instrument, Redirection, Volt Shot, and Rolling Storm, and then Adagio. Right off the gate with PvP, I think there's 2 solid options here in the first column. You've got Rapid Hit and Moving Target. Moving Target we've talked about on every weapon, I feel like, so we're not going to go over that again, but Rapid Hit, of course, increasing your stability as you land headshots, always a nice bet, and with something like No Distractions, those two kind of go hand in hand. Aim down sights for a little bit, you've got increased flinch resistance, you get more stability, which also leans into flinch resistance, just making it easier to land your shots and duels at range. This is a high impact frame. You're more likely than not gonna need to be pretty far away from your opponents. You're gonna be landing anyways, so No Distractions kind of makes sense. Now, if you want to lean into the opposite side of things and deal more flinch, there's also Explosive Payload. Depends on the weapon, but Explosive Payload, it feels like it hits really hard, and it throws me off a lot. There's also Precision Instrument, which I imagine influences your forgiveness a little bit, and then Adagio, and I don't know if that drops your time to kill or not, but I would have to think that Adagio is really going to put out some numbers. Overall, I'm probably going to say the god roll is Rapid Hit and Explosive Payload or No Distractions, but Adagio is certainly intriguing. So if any of you get that, let me know how it is. Let me know how many crits it takes to get a kill, how many body shots it takes. Sometimes weapons that really aren't in the meta get mods that kind of force them into the spotlight, and I don't know, maybe Adagio Adagio is that mod for sublimation. For PvE, there's a number of things that I think would be pretty nice here. Shoot to loot and explosive payload is a nice combination, dealing a little bit more flat damage. Just overall, it does more flinch, so it staggers your opponents more frequently, and it's also extremely easy to use shoot to loot when you have explosive payload. There's also eddy current and volt shot for super fast reloads and then easy jolting. There's redirection in the second column for some consistent damage. Rolling storm is also fantastic, even with bolt charge not having specific artifact mods this season, which is kind of a bummer. And even if you're using something like a strand build, I really enjoy having bolt charge and then discharging it on like a grapple melee or a threaded spike or something like that. It's still very helpful. Of course, you have impromptu ammunitions, which could be granting you more ammo. Just kind of depends on the encounter and what you got going on. And that's really what I'm looking forward to with like tier 5 weapons and stuff like that, is the fact that you're going to have multiple traits that you can just switch between. And if you need more ammo in a given encounter, you keep failing your DPS checks or something like that, just throw on impromptu ammunitions and that'll at least increase your chance of getting more ammo as you go. For a defined god roll, I'm gonna say eddy current and volt shot. It's just too smooth, fast reloading after a kill, leading straight into jolting. It's consistent, it's easy, and it's potent. There's not a lot more you can ask for there. But for alternate rolls, you definitely could consider rapid hit for the stability and increased reload speed, along with volt shot as well. Rolling storm. Really, those are a number of perks that you're gonna want to keep your eyes on in case you get a drop with multiple traits. Finally, for our last and 6th weapon, we have a Void Precision Frame Shotgun, Precipio. Now, I think those last couple words probably piqued the attention of some people. Precision frame shotgun. That immediately screams PvP to me. You have that bullet spread that's exactly in the shape of a human being, which makes it the most conducive to landing your pellets in the crucible. So, what do you want to use for PvP? Well, I'm seeing Lone Wolf in the first column. That looks really nice. Lone Wolf, opening shot in the second column. You've also got Lone Wolf and Slide Shot. I don't think we've had those two together before. But with Slide Shot, you're going to be able to refill your mag anytime you're sliding, which if you're just sliding all the time like most people are in the Crucible, you're never not going to have ammo in that thing, and it grants you extra range. So with Lone Wolf boosting all of your aim assist and your handling and all that stuff, plus the range from Slide Shot, that's going to be really crispy. Base range is 68, Slide Shot will bring that up to 88, and if you just manage to get a range masterwork, boom, 98 range right there. Super easy. So right out the gate, I'm just going to say Lone Wolf and Slide Shot is the absolute god roll for this gun in PvP. That's going to give you the best odds of just landing that one shot most frequently, making sure your pellets go where they're supposed to go, and locking down those kills for you. Now, what I will say is Lone Wolf in Discord is at least an intriguing option. Discord, if it's active and you get a kill with your shotgun, it refunds your ammo. So get a kill with your primary weapon, switch to your shotgun, get kills with your shotguns, and now your ammo is being refunded for 7 seconds, on top of all the handling and other accuracy benefits that it's giving you. Are you likely to go on a 10 kill spree with Discord because it's refunding your ammo? Probably not, but depending on the situation, it could be nice to just be getting your ammo back. So those are really the roles I'd be keeping an eye on for PvP. Now, as far as PvE is concerned, I'd like to draw attention to the new trait on this weapon, Proximity Power. When targets are nearby, final blows grant bonus melee stat, and bonus melee stat doesn't just mean increased regen speed, but it also could mean more damage. Now that we can go up to 200 stats for any given stat, the effects past 100 vary, and in the case of melee, you're going to be dealing more damage. You get a kill with enemies close by, and suddenly your melee is dealing even more damage temporarily. I don't know, depending on the build, that could be helpful. I have a hard time seeing that being better than 1-2 punch. We all know 1-2 punch just increases your melee damage after hitting every pellet. That's pretty easy to get, and it increases your damage by a lot. So kind of a weird situation, because I think 1-2 punch is just going to be better in every case. I guess we'll have to see in live action. There's also reconstruction and repulsor brace in the first column. I don't really know why you'd need a regular pellet shotgun to have like 12 shots in the mag, but I guess that's an option for you. Repulsor brace is also a great combination with destabilizing rounds in the second column. No backup plans, Titans could take advantage of that, I suppose. Otherwise, you also have other simple damage perks like Binary Orbit, Vorpal, and Swashbuckler in the second column. So maybe something like 1-2 punch and Swashbuckler would be a good combination. If you're using your primary a lot, Binary Orbit could also boost the effects of your Void Shotgun here. But really, in the end, I would say a PvE god roll is probably going to be 1-2 punch and some kind of damage perk. I actually think Swashbuckler is a very synergistic choice here. Fire on a target with your shotgun, get increased melee damage, then follow up with the melee kill. You've instantly got 5 stacks, granting you a 33% damage buff on your shotgun. That seems like a really easy loop to me, and with all the changes to melee that we've gotten, I could actually see myself using that. Of course, if you want the most build-friendly option, you have Repulsor Brace and Destabilizing Rounds. You could definitely do that. And if you just like having a huge magazine, Reconstruction is there for you. But overall, I'm gonna say the God Roll is 1-2 punch and Swashbuckler. So that'll do it. All 6 PvE and PvP God Rolls for the Kepler destination weapons. Let me know what you think of these weapons. Let me know what you think of the video. And if you did find the video helpful and you enjoyed it, leave a like, as that does help out a ton. Of course, follow me over on Twitch if you want to catch me playing the new activities and doing build crafting live. I usually stream every Friday and Saturday night at 10 p.m. Central. What the? You can't be serious. We're getting bullied right now.
We? There's no we.
No! And if you need a group to hang out with and do Destiny stuff with, I also have a Discord that you can check out in the description. Anyway, that'll be all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you guys next time.